It is Friday, April 20th, 2018. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a very productive get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday. Very, very small, very intimate class. As far as the things we worked, I'm not going to be entirely specific on. A little bit of sweeping here and there, and I think I may have found like my favorite sweep. It was nice, it was simple, it was nice and tight. It's one of the things I like about some moves in jiu-jitsu where the preparation for it, the setup for it is all very, very tight. You know, you just grab a wrist, you grab an elbow, and then you can sweep the guy. You know, but yeah, like I said, it was a very productive get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Friday, and something really interesting happened toward the end, though. And you know, I know that it was just playing around and whatever, you know, so that my opponent wasn't as opponentish as they would have been, or opposed as they would have been had we been in a real match, or heaven forbid a real fight. I'm sure he would have killed me. But it was funny because I did manage to pass his guard come very, 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 very close to passing his guard. I got it almost to mount. I almost closed out the mount. What I should have done and what I didn't do is put an arm nice and hard behind his back so that he couldn't sneak that knee in, you know, because he kept turning into me, and like, you know, he was laying down, and he kept turning into me after I had disengaged his leg, and I couldn't get my leg up over his without him managing to stick the knee in there, and kept me from passing his guard. But it was pretty damn close, very close, and he was a significantly higher ranked person, so I felt pretty good about that. But like I said, I'm sure if it was like a real fight or whatever, you know, he fucking killed me. You know, like disemboweled me and like hung me with my own entrails or some shit like that. But anyway, it was kind of a minor moral victory, that kind of thing. You know, I don't really count that stuff, but nonetheless, it's good to put somebody else that's in a much higher skilled person in that kind of situation. Again, even if it is just playing around, or even if they did just let you do it, it's a good affirmation that you're doing the right thing. You know, that had this been a worse situation and you were on the mat with somebody that was on par with you, if not just a teeny tiny lower, but it got it, no problem. Anyway, it's with that I want to go ahead and throw into our first dance, and I have not picked anything out, as normal. And so, as far as what to start it off with, I would go Cold Chamber, but we did that this week, I think. And you know what? It's 420, isn't it? It's 420. So we have to start it with something, you know, kind of pot related. I feel it's obligatory. Definitely. So, let's see, where is it? Space Grass, here on Coin Metal. First Dance by Clutch. And that was The Contortionist with Hollow Movement. It's funny, I keep seeing this question with regard to Verge. When Moon? And this guy gave me the appropriate response to my response to that. See, I've come to the thought that Moon is relative to your current position. So, like I pointed out to this guy, I said, I've been in XVG since one sat, so 1 penny is Moon to me, and that's the truth. Yes. So, you know, I mean, I can't look at this stuff and take it seriously when people are like, oh, when Moon, when Lambo. Dude, when Lambo, fuck. I'll tell you when Lambo. Put some motherfucking coins in a motherfucking wallet and let it sit for a year. Come back, then Lambo. Capiche? Yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot of money either. And I mean, yeah, it's amazing to me that people haven't figured this out yet, but the more dollars they print, the more Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are worth. Because, especially if they have a limited number, a fixed supply, a limited number of coins that will ever be mined. And that's true of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Verge, and Litecoin, and a few others. You know, they have a cap on the total coins, and not a few others. Actually, most coins, the administrators of them saw the wisdom of a limited quantity and stuck with that. However, I will say this: this is one of the features of ICOs that is not necessarily the same as Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. See, many ICOs have in them a caveat that the administrators of the coin or the round table of administrators that run the coin or vote on what happens with the coin or whatever, they usually have in their white paper some little caveat that says, at some time in the future, if we should deem it necessary, we have at our disposal the option to create more coins. And see, you can't do that with Bitcoin. You either have the Bitcoin or you don't. You know, you can't do that with Verge either. There's no waving the magic wand and creating more Verge. There's mining the Verge, but there is not printing the Verge. And I think this is a detail that is really, really underplayed. I mean, you know, when it comes to what people are talking about with regard to a coin is the supply. You know, I mean, one of the things that made Bitcoin so attractive was its limited supply. That no matter what, there wasn't going to be any more than there already was. You space your funds, somebody steals your funds, too bad. You gotta go remine or save up enough to recompense yourself, or you know, or maybe you'll get lucky and somebody actually does get your coins back to you. But every time that does happen, it lowers the supply of the coins out in the market and increases the value of the coins remaining. But anywho, so yeah, I noticed that there are very, very few people talk about cryptocurrencies in those terms. You know, it's easy to disregard economics up front until the cost of everything becomes really apparent, and then you can't disregard economics anymore. You gotta take it into account. You gotta be taking into account how much you expect to return and at what rate you intend to recover it at. You know. Anyway, I got this article here on btcmanager.com. Bitcoin rush in Venezuela. Transaction volume reaches 1 million per day milestone. And this is authored, I guess, tomorrow, April 21st, 2018 at 2:15 by Pureshu Garg. Let's check and verify something here. Priyeshu. He, yes. So yes, penis. Continuing on. On April 17th, 2018, the Bitcoin transaction volume reached a milestone of 1.006 million recorded in a single day, according to the data released by Venablock. In what is a record for the crisis-stricken country, the attention of Venezuelans have increasingly turned to digital currencies due to the severely devalued local currency. Sell Bitcoins online in Venezuela. The Bitcoin market allows Venezuelans access to Forex, which has become a rare commodity due to strict government Forex regulations that have been in place since 2003. Capital controls have led to the emergence of black market Forex platforms in the country. Everyone from individuals to business entities have no choice but to patronize these black market Forex operations regardless of the rates. In Venezuela, there is limited access to the official Forex market, which means many people do not have any means of gauging what the actual Forex rates are. They are left to depend on websites, WhatsApp groups, and cryptocurrency exchanges that list the Bolivar dollar rate. Many local businesses only accept payment in foreign currency due to the depreciated value of the Bolivar, which continues to fall. A country in crisis. Bitcoin continues to be a haven for Venezuelans in the midst of its current troubles. Once Latin America's most prosperous nation, Venezuela has become the theater for one of the most debilitating economic crises of the modern world. Mounting unemployment rates and unprecedented hyperinflation that has seen the Bolivar become nearly worthless has plunged the country into suffering, with many facing starvation and lack of access to basic amenities. Since the fall in oil prices, the situation in Venezuela has worsened. With an economy primarily supported by the oil industry, the country has felt the full force of the effects of dwindling oil reserves. The failure of the government to diversify the economy during the period of prosperity has left the country teetering on the brink of collapse. This has inevitably led to social and political unrest. The United States has imposed several sanctions on the Venezuelan government over cases of human rights abuses allegedly committed by government officials. The country's legislature remains a firm opposition to the government and policies of President Nicolas Maduro. Rioting, protests, and mass incarcerations have become an all too common occurrence in the country. The petro-cryptocurrency. In a bid to reverse the dwindling fortunes of the country, President Maduro announced the creation of the petro-cryptocurrency in 2017. Petro will be backed by oil, gas, gold, and diamond reserves. The government hopes to sue the petro as a vehicle for circumventing the stifling U.S. sanctions that have made the country unable to trade with other countries and address its rising debt profile. The petro has become another cause of conflict in the country, with the opposition-controlled legislature calling it, quote, illegal and unconstitutional. U.S. President Donald Trump recently signed an executive order outlawing the petro in the U.S. Yeah, whatever. You know, I think that the Venezuela is like I don't know how to really characterize them, but it seems to me like they're like this melting pot of a variety of different policies, like being tested in real time. You know, like with regard to cryptocurrencies, they gave up. They've already come to the understanding that it is going to be far more expensive to them to continue to fight cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum than to simply try to co-opt the technology and have their own ICO. Now, I don't see that as being a viable option of getting out. What I do see it as a viable option is Venezuela what they really need to do, other than this crypto Bolivar shit, they need to not worry about having that. As they're already trading mostly in other people's currencies, the thing then to do is to abandon your own. If the Bolivar doesn't serve anymore to keep your fucking economy functioning, ditch it. There's like 1,000 cryptocurrencies out there that you could be adopting as one that you're willing to accept for payment in government services, and that's really all you have to do. Maduro, if you're paying attention, if you happen to be listening right now, this is what you got to do, man. You got to ditch this fucking crypto Bolivar shit. All you're doing with that is pissing people off. Okay? All you're doing with it is pissing people off. What you need to do is go to your opposition government and say, look, it's kind of obvious that we don't do this money thing really well. I mean, we're kind of fucking up here. What we can do instead, though, is develop our own standards for evaluating cryptocurrencies within the nation of Venezuela. Because we're going to be getting most of our energy from, renewable resources and whatnot. And we could probably be mining here too. But basically you have to ditch the Bolivar. Whatever central bank you've got managing your shit, you just got to tell them to just pound sand. Say, look, you guys suck. We could be doing our paper transactions in euros or US dollars or something else other than you, and be getting a better value and better tracking of money, and we won't have this issue that we're currently having. Now, I think there's some sort of issue with regard to their taxation models there in Venezuela, and maybe that's something they need to address. But they do definitely need to be looking at their government and trying to remaster the model of it. I mean, because maybe you got too many administrators or something. You got to ditch a few thousand of them or something like that. I don't know. But you got to be doing something to try and streamline your ops. Because obviously there's a significant amount of waste, fraud, and abuse going on in your government and in your economy here that is not being accounted for, So, maybe you're taxing too much. Maybe your regulations are too high. Maybe the state ownership of everything isn't really such a great idea after all. But you got to be doing something, because I don't know. It seems to me like you're top heavy or something like that. That you keep having to borrow so much money that for the year 2018, I think you guys are down like 1,000% or something like that. You've had 1,000% inflation over 2018 or some shit like that. It's fucking sickening. It just speaks volumes of how fiscally irresponsible you people are. And when I say you people, I mean the government, whoever is managing this whole finance thing that you got going on in Venezuela. You gotta be looking to renegotiate this plan, because it's obviously not working, dude. Personally, like I said, I would ditch the Bolivar. For your paper transactions, use other people's currencies. You could probably fucking use the ruble and get a better rate. And for everything else, start adopting cryptocurrencies. And the first place to do that would be the government. You've got the right idea with trying to go crypto to help finance your government and all that shit, but you're going about it the wrong way. You don't create your own cryptocurrency. There are 1,000 of them out there right now for you to utilize. You could be using Ethereum, which your people already are. You could be mining and using Bitcoin between government agencies and government entities, and also what kind of permissions you allow for your businesses within Venezuela. Open up the possibility for them to freely transact in cryptocurrencies. Don't even worry about taxation. Don't even worry about it. Because what's going to end up happening is, if you cut all your taxes and get rid of the fucking Bolivar, you're going to pay yourself off in 2 years. And within 5 years, your economy will be righted. Because ultimately, everything is valuated against the US dollar. And right now, they're printing them off faster than fucking toilet paper. And it won't be too long before Venezuela's suffering is over. Because you do have enough proven reserves of oil that you could be keeping yourselves buoyed at $200 a barrel. And honestly, I don't see that all that far around the corner here. You know, I don't think that the push to get into Syria is coincidental. See, you don't try and steal other people's oil when you have a shit ton of it. You know, if America and other first world powers and whatnot were able to supply themselves with enough oil, there wouldn't be this kabuki theater going on in fucking Syria and Libya and all these oil-bearing nations. It's not going to be too long before they're breaking down the doors of Kuwait and Qatar and all these places that have been kind of insulated. You know, you got oil, they want oil. You know, this is our reward for being lazy and not trying to get off of oil. Oil has way too many dependencies to be trying to run a 21st century economy on. It's unfeasible. Anyway, so yeah, you know, Venezuela, they've got all kinds of oil. And I mean, despite what they've experienced as far as loss in their national economy and whatnot, and on their Bolivar, their currency, but they do have plenty of oil. It's just a matter of being able to get it to market and being able to get a decent return on it. And right now that's very difficult because they've got a lot of embargoes. But I don't imagine that's going to last much longer. Like I said, I think that the reason why there's so much action going on in the Middle East is because people are trying to secure future reserves. And it's because they're looking at their current reserves and they're seeing that they're below the red line that reads E. You know how like when you're driving along and you're not really out of gas, but the little gas light comes on, the little thing that looks like a gas pump comes on and says, "Hey dude, you're not quite out of oil, but quite out of gas yet, but you better put some in." They saw that like maybe a decade ago. And that's, like I said, that's why this whole brinksmanship is going on in the Middle East right now, is because they're trying to get it to where they can just tap that shit, man. Oh, what? We're running out of oil in Texas? We flattened out Texas and there's no more oil there? That's okay, we'll just tap Iraq. You know, we got American oil companies over there. We can count it on the same books. Nobody will be the wiser. You know, that to me just is very, very wasteful. I mean, for one, it's quite a significant distance between here and there. And more than that, you got wind, you got sun, you got currents. I mean, here in Oregon, if you've never been to the Oregon coast, let me tell you something. There is always wind. It's like a perpetual supply of fucking wind. Are we using it? No, it's an eyesore. I want to get raped in my ass for electricity, but I want to let all that wind go for free and not take advantage of it. That's so fucking stupid. I mean, really. We could literally electrify all of the western states with just a couple wind turbine sites on the coast of Oregon. You know, as far as it being an eyesore, give me a fucking break, people. I mean, what do you want? Do Do you mind having just a little bit of an eyesore on maybe 4 or 5 spots on the entire coast? Or do you want to keep getting raped in the ass for electricity? Because if we did wind power right here in Oregon, you would be getting free electricity, and everybody else would be paying just a tiny amount by comparison what they are currently paying. And everybody would be happy from that. But no. Got to maintain an energy, a fuel economy that's dependent upon shipping oil 8,000 miles from anywhere else on the planet to this country, and then refine it. It's a fucking joke. Fucking joke. I mean, it appalls me because if you could imagine life in a world where there was a glut of electricity, there's just so much electricity that they're paying you to use it, or paying you to find new ways to use it, because otherwise it's going to break down the infrastructure with all those volts bouncing around in the system. It's just going to fuck everything up. You got to use that shit. I mean, imagine being in that kind of world where you just had electricity just flying out the kazoo that you could be putting to whatever project that you wanted to. I mean, what would there be to hold you back as far as, you have some whiz-bang idea that you want to engineer or something like that? If you had virtually unlimited free electricity, or relatively free by comparison to now, electricity, you'd be exploring the Searle effect and shit in your garage. You'd be trying to develop your own warp engine and shit like that. And that's what I think is absolutely necessary for the future, is cheap, damn near as cheap as the road out in front of your house, cheap electricity and internet access. Because I think if you want to have one, you can have the other really cheap by comparison to what you're paying right now. I think that type of infrastructure is going to be far more important to us in the future, because I don't believe the future is ground-based. I believe it's in the air. It's in the sky above you, and it's up in space. That's where the future is. That, for our species anyway. It's certainly not bumping around on this little mud ball for another few centuries. Give me a break. But yeah, Venezuela, they're in a weird situation right now because, like I said, they've got a shit ton of oil. They also got a shit ton of embargoes against them because I guess there's some issue where they don't want to take U.S. dollars for their oil, or they nationalize their oil and they don't want to let U.S. oil companies just take whatever they want. Some shit like that. I can't speak intelligently to the entire situation there, but I will say this. Their biggest problem, the way out of their current situation, is ditching their fucking currency. And like I said, I don't care what other currency they use, but ditch the fucking Bolivar. And if you go really open with Bitcoin, down to accepting Bitcoin as payment for government services and taxes, fuck. Forget about it. I've joked about Venezuela leading the world economy into the 21st century. It would no longer be a joke. It would be like a truism. I mean, people would be looking at Venezuela going, why the fuck didn't we do that like a decade ago? Could have got out of this bullshit a long time ago. But no, we had to live through it. Had to make sure it was fucked up. Wasn't quite sure. Looked kind of fucked up on paper, but no, we felt we really had to experience this one. Yeah, whatever. And the reason I keep putting it that way is I really believe this shit is optional at this point. That we have all of the technology right now. If every fucking scientist on planet Earth were to just say, you know what, I think I'm just going to use the stuff that I've been working on for the last decade and be happy with that. If they just cut it off right now, R&D, just goes to a screaming fucking halt right now. We will coast on using the current technologies we have to more and more efficiency, a higher and higher level of efficiency for the next 3 decades, to not need any other new development. We've got it all. We can transmit millions of dollars across the fucking planet from one person to another, doesn't matter where they are, damn near instantaneously. We're working on being able to fly stuff around the planet damn near instantaneously. I mean, this is a future that doesn't have room for the crap that we're currently dealing with. But like I said, we could get there on just the technology that we have right now. Like I said, you implement it, right? You run it for 4 years, and you see what other technological innovations that we currently have that could be applied to that to make it more efficient. And like I said, without any more R&D being done into any new advancement right now, we could end every single problem that humanity has ever had with dealing with physical life on this planet. I firmly believe that. I think that, evidence like the existence or continued existence of things like Dick Cheney. I mean, you think his karma would have manifested in the form of a 18-wheeler run him over while he's crossing the road or something by now. But the guy is still alive. That tells me technology is definitely playing a significant part in that. At one point or another, he did not even have a human heart. They had some kind of Darth Vader thing going on in there where he didn't have a human heart. I guess he does now, but there was a period in time where he was pretty much Darth Vader. No heart. No heartbeat. I mean, that must have been really fucking weird. I can't even imagine that. But you know what? Like I was saying, that's showing me that human suffering in a vast variety of ways could be ended tomorrow. It's just a matter of focus and intent and desire. If you want to create little tensions and whatnot, that people kind of need a little bit of tension, a little bit of adversity to push them ahead. But like I said, I think we've been confronted with enough adversity that we've created enough solutions that we could literally idle on for the next 3 decades on those alone and get to the kind of future where we are up in space and we are exploring and colonizing other planets and we are harvesting resources out of the comets and asteroids and shit floating around out there and bringing it back to Earth and traveling faster than light and all that other stuff that we only see in science fiction and in the dreams of children. That we could be having those things right now. People wonder what gives me hope. It's because I've seen enough of the things that were only imaginary, yesterday, come to fruition in reality over my lifetime anyway. And so it's hard for me to look at that and be pessimistic. I mean, it's I don't see problems ahead of us that are unreasonable or that we are incapable of solving. It's just a matter of desire. Is it within our desire to learn and fix it? Anyway, I got this other article here on BTC Manager, and I kind of came across this one in the other article there, and I wanted to drop in on it. Here it goes. IMF chief urges financial institutions to keep updated with cryptocurrencies. And this is authored tomorrow, the 21st. 2018 at 0:15 hours by Sharia Malwa. And so I'm going to assume no penis, but we'll check and verify because that's what we did before. And shortly another blah blah blah. Sheen, you want a straight visual blockchain, hard hitting block. Oh my gosh, my apologies, Sharia. My apologies. Yes, penis. Continuing on. According to a blog post by the IMF chief, which we are going to right-click on, the IMF chief, authorities around the world have been muddled about the standing of, quote, real threats and the needless fears in the crypto world. In a bid to rule this out, the International Monetary Fund is looking to be an enabler in changing this mindset. IMF's crypto stance. The IMF is seeking a leading position in convincing the world's central banks to keep pace with digital money and cryptocurrency in the global financial system. Managing Director of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, said that in order to decrease the risk factor while ensuring the process bears fruit, policymakers should work in unison with an open mind to construct a regulatory framework. No, Christine, they just need to go fuck off. Regulations highly needed. Not really. On April 11th, during an interview with the South China Morning Post, Lagarde said that they are looking at, quote, something which is developing fast and which is highly volatile, with benefits and downsides. Lagarde set down some ground rules to eradicate fear about the crypto world from the minds of people. She stated that, firstly, unlawful use of digital currency and the misuse of the financial inexperience of consumers must be taken care of. No, they need to fucking learn what the fuck they're doing, Christine. You gotta run into a wall occasionally, make a mistake now and then. Continuing on. Secondly, the various uses and innovations that are birthed from digital mechanisms are to be given an impetus. Only then will the world come to terms with its nature. Hence, it goes to show that it's an amalgamation of having rules that protect and not suppress innovation, which will ultimately lead to cost reduction. Yeah, and I'm not going to read the quote because we're about to read the actual blog post if this is it. Yes. Yeah, we're definitely going to read this. It's not terribly old, nor is it terribly long. But you know, I wanted to just comment on this. The IMF, as far as I'm concerned, they are paying attention to something that really isn't any of their concern. I mean, effectively, we're talking about trading Pokemon cards. And some Pokemon cards are just worth more than others. You know, this whole thing, cryptocurrencies, it started in basements. It started in closets. It started in dormitory rooms. Fuck, it's still in dormitory rooms. That's who's running this shit. You know, there is some industrial strength stuff going on out there. There's plenty of mining that is industrialized to hell, you know, in warehouses and all that. But for the most part, these systems are people like me and you. You know, and as far as the need for quote-unquote regulation, let me put it to you this way. The transactions clear or the transactions do not clear. That's how this shit works. Either the coins are valid and the transaction clears, or the address is invalid and the fucking transaction does not clear. That's about as much regulatory oversight or anything as you actually need because you have a public record. It's not a matter of trust anymore. If you do have to trust it, then yes, you do need regulators. You need watchers to watch the watchers and make sure the watchers are really watching shit instead of cheating. Well, now we've made everybody the watchers and the doers. So, who the fuck is supposed to watch the watchers? Us. We watch the watchers because we're also watching and we're also doing. In doing, we know what's going on. It's just really sad to me. This confusion is still bubbling around with virtual currencies such as Bitcoin that people just do not understand. You've got a public blockchain so that you can get rid of bankers. So that you can get rid of banks. So that you can be a bank. Be Christine Lagarde. Be Janet Yellen. Be Jerome, I don't know what his last name, the head of the Federal Reserve. Be that person. Because that's basically what cryptocurrencies have done. They've taken the idea of a firearm where it doesn't matter if you are 4'2" and 110 pounds. If you get the drop on your assailant, they are going to die. Or at least you will put holes in them. Probably. If you're any good. But it was a great evener. It took away the power of title. Because then it's just a matter of getting the lead to intersect with your body. If you can get that to happen, there's no difference between a king or a bum on the street or a housewife. They're all equalized now, depending on which end of that lead they're on. Well, now we've done the same thing with currencies. And it doesn't matter how many buildings or how many officials you have that are saying your coin is worth a shit. If it can't do what Bitcoin can do, if it can't do what Verge and Litecoin and Ethereum can do, then now it's got competition that can easily supplant it because it has a competitive advantage. And like it or not, Bitcoin still has a significant advantage over Visa. A lot of people would like you to forget this and want to take it away by making you use your Bitcoin like it's a refillable Visa card, where you'll have to be committing funds to a channel that you will be able to spend within the channel. And again, it's just like putting your fucking money in a bank account. But that's not why Bitcoin was created. Bitcoin was created so you could be your own bank, so you don't have to trust somebody else with your money. So you don't have to ask permission from somebody else to spend your money digitally. At some point, in some sense, you always are asking Visa, you're always asking your bank to say, yes, I will send the money to this person that you're trying to pay. At some point or another, they can say, I don't really like this guy because he deals guns that he doesn't bother to get registered to the state, and so, no, we're not going to let you do business with that guy. And, I don't like this guy because he sells pot that doesn't go through your state's regulatory framework, so no, you can't buy pot from him. Now, of course, people cloak their transactions so that Visa doesn't actually know what you're buying. But the money does still come out of your account, and at some point or another, if there is some sort of criminal activity having found to involve your credit card number, there is a direct affiliation. They can rat you out. But like with Bitcoin, if the wallet that you're using is associated with a piece of hardware that does not have any direct association to you, it doesn't have your address, it doesn't have your phone number, it doesn't have a legitimate email address, it doesn't have a legitimate physical address associated with it, the names that are associated with it aren't associated with anything or anyone associated with you personally, then you're in the clear. And you can be using that for other things. You could be receiving Bitcoin to it and nobody would be the wiser. Are you really Jeff Jones? Do you really live on 23 Lakeshore Drive in I don't know, Boston, Massachusetts? Probably not. But as far as anybody else is concerned, that's exactly who could be spending your Bitcoin. I mean, there are ways that you can still use Bitcoin and be completely anonymous with them. It takes a little bit of effort, but you can. And it's perfectly legal, too. Now, there could be some people that would argue the legality of that because of the way that you're going about it. But it's really none of their business. It's your business. That's why Bitcoin exists, is because it is your business and nobody else really has any say in it or should have any say in it between you and your business partners. And I think that cryptocurrencies are going to enable exactly that. And because of the utility of that power, it doesn't matter who they are, eventually they will fall in line with cryptocurrencies because they avail you of so many advantages over your current payment systems that it becomes a pain in the ass to continue to use your existing payment systems. I mean, even like I was saying about Lightning Network, though, the thing that I don't like about it is you don't have any control over when the transaction's clear. If the transaction is happening on a payment channel that you have not opened yourself, then when the payment channel actually closes is contingent upon when the owner of the channel wants it closed, under what conditions they want it closed. And in the meantime, your money is bouncing around in their fucking payment channel. Now, they can provide you some assurance that the transaction has happened, but unless the closing transaction happens for the payment channel, none of the transactions that have happened since the initiating transaction have actually occurred. And that's just too fucking high a liability to be entrusting to anybody, just anybody. We can do it on the Bitcoin blockchain right now because if it actually broadcasted out to the blockchain network, the Bitcoin network, it will eventually get cleared or it will get canceled. Like, if it bounces around for too long, it'll eventually cancel out. But chances are it'll actually get into a block and clear. And chances are it will be a shorter interval than 3 to 5 business days. It'll usually be a couple hours, maybe a day at the most. Like, if the network is like just really congested that day, then yes, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get your transaction on a block. Now, I don't think it should be that way, but that's the way that the devs have been trying to push the development path of Bitcoin, so we'll see how that really works out for them. I think the presence of competition that doesn't rely on the same type of topology will keep them away from that. But anyway, Christine Lagarde, don't worry about cryptocurrencies. We regulate them very, very well on our own as is. In that in a point there, though, we should be taking a little bit of time and putting some pressure on Facebook and Twitter to get the fuck out of our way. Yes, there's going to be people spamming scams all over the fucking place. That's going to happen anyway. You know, since they changed their policies with regard to crypto ads, I still see fucking ads for stuff all the time that I would consider to be quote-unquote scams in cryptocurrencies. So, it's not like that's actually going to fix anything. If anything, it's going to make people a lot more susceptible. You know, as this paper we were reading from the IMF talks about, you know, they're worried about the naivety of first-time crypto users and the costs that they may incur learning the lessons that we've all already learned, or we wouldn't still be involved. But we learned them the hard way, or at least I did. You know, where you're making stupid moves and you're listening to people you really shouldn't be listening to. Again, this is something you learn with experience. There's not going to be a law out there that will ever fully protect you from your stupidity. And I think the policy of not allowing crypto ads to go through on Twitter and Facebook, I think that's stupid. I mean, for one thing, the scams that fuck the most people over look the most legitimate. And if you don't have stuff going across your Twitter feed saying, hey, don't click on this, don't go to these guys, they're a bunch of assholes, how are you going to know? When somebody you thought your friend recommends in a direct message, hey, you should go to this pump group or this investment group or this fucking cryptocurrency project or some shit. If you don't have people on your Twitter saying don't go to these guys, you're not going to know. And you're going to go to them like a stupid person because you're just ignorant, right? And then your ignorance is going to be taken advantage of in a worse way than it could have been before, because you probably would have had people warning you before. You know, I mean, I've seen plenty of discussions online with regard to cryptocurrency projects where people saved other people money by telling them specifically, hey, that Paycoin thing, it's a fucking piece of shit. There's no way in hell they will ever be able to manage a $20 peg. You should use your money elsewhere. You know, invest in unobtainium or some shit like that. You'll get a better return. But like I said, that's not happening as much anymore, and I think a lot of it has to do with these filters that they put on to where you're just not seeing it. And again, how are you going to be able to prepare for it if you do not see the warning signs, right? But I don't think that regulation is needed. I think that if anything, less regulation is needed. Because we do need to suffer the worst of this now. The sooner we suffer it, the better it's going to be. Because the smarter we're going to be as things go forward. You know, let us learn. Let us, you know, scrape our knees and elbows. Figure out what the fuck is going on. Lose a little bit of money. Get scammed. Because that's going to happen whether you want us to or not. And again, I would argue that the terrain would only get more treacherous the more you try to censor voices warning people. And as with that, I want to go ahead and drop back down into some music, and then we're going to be reading Christine Lagarde's blog post because it's not terribly long. And then I've got some other stuff I want to cover tonight too. So, for right now though, it's time for a little bit of music. And, you know, I haven't been playing the Black Dahlia Murderer. I didn't play him last time anyway. And so let's go with a little bit of Nightbringers here for you, here on Coin Metal. And that was Prong with The Banishment. Yeah, I'd seen a a tweet earlier on, and I don't know if it was from Tommy or somebody replying to Tommy or Tommy replying to them, or I don't know. It was pertaining to two particular albums, both Power of the Damager and Scorpio Rising. And both of these albums are kind of interesting with regard to the discography of Prong. You know, if you're familiar with this band, you understand that Tommy is an incredibly diverse musician. I mean, the dude is everywhere. You know, and so it's like some of the stuff that he's doing with other projects and whatnot make a little bit of bleed over into Prong, because you just know the guy is prolific. He's very creative. He's very prolific. You know that while he's writing with Danzig, or he's writing with Al Jorgensen, or one of those guys, that he's in the back of his mind, like he gets done with the project, for the day with Al, he gets done with the session, in the back of his mind he's got something that was similar to what he was working with Al, but not really, not really ministry material. It was more Prong material, and that it made it onto a recording somewhere, and that it actually got expressed into one of his own albums. And it seemed like it at this time, during Scorpio Rising, and only slightly during Power of the Damager, that Tommy had been kind of like in a lull where he was just going full force with Danzig, he's going full force with Ministry, and then at one point or another, relatively recently, he got involved with Dave Grohl and a bunch of other guys, and they did this thing called Teenage Time Wasters, and it was just like, I don't know, like 13 to 20 musicians. And I think it was David Grohl was in all of them. It was like his opportunity to play drums for other people or something. I'm not entirely certain what the whole genesis of that project was or whatever. All I do know is that Tommy was involved for at least one song, and I can't remember what it was called, but I think the project name was Teenage Time Wasters. But anyway, so it gives you an idea of like, the guy's just been all over the fucking place. And throughout it all, he has had Prong as his project that he's done with a variety of people. But there are like one or two musicians, from what I understand. And this is just stuff I've read and so on and so forth about the different albums that Tommy's done through the moniker Prong. That there have been certain persons that have been involved throughout, like I guess Ted Parsons has been involved kind of off and on with either some of the drum tracking or the production. I'm not entirely certain, but from what I understand, he's kind of like in the background as a member or whatever. I think his current lineup, and I haven't really checked this out, but I believe Mr. Cruz, and I can't remember his first name for the moment, is still his operating drummer. And I've got to say, dude, that man just rips the skins. He's been with him for, and I can't remember his first name for fucking some reason. Sorry, Mr. Cruz, if you're listening right now. Sorry, I can't remember your first name. Anyway, the current guy that is playing drums for Prong, for Tommy, he's been involved with them for Ruining Lives, let's see, and the latest one, 0 Days, I think also No Absolutes, No Absolutes as well, and I think this is the longest time that he has been with one drummer, other than Ted Parsons being involved for the first, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, Ted Parsons has got him by one album, and I think that, or maybe two. It might be two. not counting EPs and all that other stuff. But in any case, I was looking at this tweet, and it was something about the lack of acclaim for both albums. And honestly, I think that they did receive a low amount of acclaim for the person who was involved, especially as prolific as he was. But in all honesty, I don't really think that Tommy got like full throttle with regard to devoting most of his creative energies entirely to Prong, and I could be mistaken about this. If I ever talk to him, have him on the show, we'll talk about this. But it seemed like it was not as cohesive. I mean, there was some kind of bumps around, and I guess he had some sort of hiatus before he came back with Scorpio Rising, and that always has an impact on your work. I mean, if you're not actively at the chops or whatever. But yeah, like I said, it seemed like he hit kind of a lull, and then he came back with Scorpio Rising, and I mean, it's a good album. There's one or two songs, like any other album. There's one or two songs I could have done without, but it felt like I could feel like all of the energy that he's been putting out in the later albums, like No Absolutes. That fucking album is like the intent and the drive and the desired outcome just fucking hit. And same thing for 0 Days. The whole album just falls to the wall, and I would say Ruining Lives as well. All three of these albums, to me, seem to have a more cohesive drive behind them. There wasn't this bleed over from Ministry. There wasn't this bleed over from Danzig, although from what I understand, he is kind of still working with Danzig on something. But anyway, there wasn't that bleed over of his intent and the drive behind the album. And like I said, there was a little lapse in that, I think, in Scorpio Rising, and just a teeny tiny bit in Power of the Damager. Like I said, the energy was there, but it was like he needed another influence. And I think that Mr. Cruz's drums have been a very, very significant influence on that aspect. That, when you have somebody that is as driving a player as he is, that adds a real significant dynamic to your own mentations of what you can expect of that person, and what you can expect of yourself. And so I think that the pairing, and I can't remember who was playing bass for him. I used to have his lineup like down in my mind or whatever, but anyway, it seemed like the last three albums, it's been a lot tighter, certainly more focused. Like I said, the energy was definitely there in Scorpio Rising and in Power of the Damager, but there was just something kind of not there. And I think if I don't know, I kind of like what's his face, not Aaron Rossi. I mean, he's a good drummer, but I definitely think the guy that he's working with right now, Mr. Cruz. Damn it! I wish I could. That's pissing me off. I'm going to look it up just so I can say his name on the show, because honestly, he's been with Tommy for like 5 years right now, and he's fucking kicking ass. So we need some props. Proper props. Prong. Here we go. And go there. Thank goodness for the interwebs. It can tell us everything we want to know. Yeah, let's see. Blah, 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 blah. Covered in stone. No absolute. 0 days. Oh, yeah, that's one. Carved into stone. God damn it. That album, I keep forgetting that album even existed. I mean, honestly, Tommy went so fast from Power of the Damager through to Ruining Lives, I forgot that Carved into Stone even existed. I don't know why, because it's an awesome fucking album. I mean, really, I don't know why I don't play it more on this show, other than I think somebody stole my copy of it. I mean, there's a couple albums, and there's a couple bands that I cannot keep a physical fucking copy of it. I don't understand it. And Prong is the band, and it's like one of my favorite bands, right? But like, I'll give you an example. Prove You Wrong. I have literally bought this album 10 times. 10 times. The only reason you have Unconditional, that I get to play Unconditional on the show, is because I bought another fucking copy. Because it keeps disappearing. I let somebody see my collection or whatever, and next thing I know, it's gone. You know, hey, did you borrow my... Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, I'll get that back to you. Never fucking happens. It's part of somebody else's fucking collection now. So, you know, there's just albums like that, and you know, that's one of them. And Carved into Stone, that's another one. I think I bought that album like 3 times now, and it's one of those that I would put it on the level of notoriety of, you know, say Scorpio Rising or Power of the Damager. I put it more on Power of the Damager because that one actually got a little more fanfare and whatnot. But Carved into Stone deserved so much more attention than it got, and it drove me nuts because I was looking for and I couldn't even remember the title of it. It was like Best Served Cold or Revenge is Served Cold or something like that. But anyway, I was trying to find that song, and I couldn't find it, and now I remember why. Because it's on Carved into Stone, and somebody probably gained my fucking copy of it. And so, whenever I find that or buy another copy of it, then you'll start hearing it on the show. But anyway, right now we're looking for the lineup. And I can see the picture. Yes, Mr. Cruz, I can see your picture. Wearing an LA hat. Let's see here. Paul Raven, Basis Cleansing, blah, 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 blah. Mainstay, Tommy, blah, blah, blah. Snap your fingers. Well, fuck, I'll just read this thing. By the time Prong had signed Epic Records in 1989, the New York City post-metal triumvirate had already accomplished a lot. The band, formed by guitarist and vocalist Tommy Victor, soundman at the legendary club CBGB's, along with the club's doorman Mike Kirkland and ex-Swans drummer Ted Parsons, had already released 2 independent records, Primitive Origins, which we never play on this show, and Force Fed, again, which we never play on this show. Mostly because I don't have those in CD form. If I had a way to convert them from tape, I would do it. At a show at Old Ritz in New York, the New York hardcore legends Cro-Mags and German Thrashers' Destruction was what sealed the deal with Epic Records. Quote, signing with a major label was a very much a matter of survival, Victor explained to Britain's Kerrang! Magazine in 1990. We weren't high school kids living with our parents. Survive and Thrive was more like it. For Prong in 1990's Beg to Differ became an instant genre classic. Songs like the epic title track or the tightly disciplined and sonically dynamic Lost and Found further carved out the band's innovative deconstruction of metal's excesses. Quote, we never saw ourselves as a metal band, stated Victor, however we play them a lot on this show. Quote, our riffs and lyrics and ideas were minimal, but conveyed everything we felt and everything we saw going on around us living in New York City in the 80s. A lot of what I had to say was pretty reactionary, was pretty reactionary. Disneyland hadn't moved in yet. Over the course of their 3 major label releases, Prove You Wrong, Cleansing, and Rude Awakening, Prong charted an innovative course. It was actually the Whose Fist Is This Anyway EP that that ushered in Prong's best-known era. The EP was comprised of 5 remixes from the Prove You Wrong album, including a heavier groove and experiments in electronics that gave rise to Prong's best-known and best-selling work, Cleansing. And dude, that's another fucking album that just disappears out of my collection. I don't understand it. It's like I've got the Underpants Gnomes, and they keep ganking my fucking copy of Cleansing. Quote, "We saw where we felt things in metal and hardcore could go, and we rolled the dice a bit," says Tommy of the band's Watershed release. With keyboardist John Bechtel and former Killing Joke bassist Paul Raven, Cleansing cemented Prong's position as a mainstream metal mainstay. The album's single, Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck, has been up there in the top 100 riffs ever in Kerrang! After years of toiling in the fringes, propelled by touring with the likes of White Zombie and Pantera, Prong had arrived. Rude Awakening, blah, 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 blah. And, dude, come on, give me the fucking lineup names. Fuck you. Arrgh. Let's see here. Chrome. 0 days, blah, blah, blah. No absolutes, very best, ferocity, blah, 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 blah. God damn it, Jim. Let's look for that. No, that's not it. Maybe. Tommy. Yes. Sorry, I'm looking through the pictures. I'm trying to find something that tells me the names of the current people other than Tommy Victor. It's driving me fucking nuts. I hate that I don't know their current lineup. That's just driving me nuts. Blah, 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 blah. And of course they don't tell us here. Bastards. So, let's see here. We'll go back to that. And we'll type in current line. Oh, there we go. Members. Tommy Victor, Armani Pittman, Aaron Rossi, Tony Campos. Holy shit, Tony Campos played bass? Huh. Alexi Rodriguez. And no, that's not him. God damn, dude. You've been involved with a lot of people. I don't know why it doesn't give us like a current, you know? It's kind of lame. Let's see here. I don't know, maybe Wikipedia will do a better job. Let's see here. Current members. There it is. Art Cruz. Thank you, Wikipedia. Jesus Christ, that was driving me up a wall. And bassist right now is Mike Longworth. Let's see who else he's worked with. Let's see. Extortion Attempt, blah, 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 blah. Kisses for Kings, Room 111, The Twilight and Sound, The Get-Go, The A-Gang, blah, blah, blah. Just taking a quick look at this gentleman's material, who else he's worked with, or what else he's done. Messed. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, that's interesting. So anyway, we've resolved it. Current drums, Art Cruz. And like I said, he's been involved since 2012. And he picked up for Aaron Rossi. Although, it seems here there was a lapse 2010 and 2011. Who was doing that? Because it seems to me they had toured once during that period, and it's kind of hard to do that without a drummer. Yeah, must have been Mr. Cruz. But anyway, yeah, so I think Art Cruz has been a better fit for drums for prom. Only because, I think about the driving nature of the last three or so albums, or four. Can't forget Carved into Stone. And like I said, I think he's just been a better skinsman for it. Anyway, we've got a little bit of time left, and I think we've kind of chewed to death the idea of Venezuela and Bitcoin. I just see that as like a prototype for how this shit's going to express in the materially. That's how I see things expressing elsewhere. But the end result will be the same. That eventually the United States will issue an ICO. It'll be ruled unconstitutional by Congress, and the market will decide whether or not it wants to utilize it as a monetary unit or not. Anyway, I got this other article from Christine Lagarde, and this one is authored on April 16th, 2018 by Christine Lagarde, so no penis. And this is on imfblog.org or imf.org or blogs.imf.org. An even-handed approach to crypto assets. The dizzying gyrations of crypto assets such as Bitcoin invite comparisons with the tulip mania that swept Holland in the 17th century and the recent dot-com bubble. With more than 1,600 crypto assets in circulation, it seems inevitable that many will not survive the process of creative destruction. In my blog last month, I looked at the dark side of crypto assets, including their potential use for money laundering and the financing of terrorism. Here, I want to examine the promise they offer. A judicious look at crypto assets should lead us to neither crypto condemnation nor crypto euphoria. I couldn't agree more, Christine. Just as a few technologies that have emerged from the dot-com era have transformed our lives, the crypto assets that survive could have a significant impact on how we save, invest, and pay our bills. That is why policymakers should keep an open mind and work toward an even-handed regulatory framework that minimizes risks while allowing the creative process to bear fruit. This is one of the points I made in a speech at the Bank of England last year. What are some of the potential benefits? Answers are already starting to take shape. Fast, inexpensive. First bullet point here. Crypto assets enable fast and inexpensive financial transactions while offering some of the convenience of cash. Some payment services now make overseas transfers in a matter of hours, not days. Actually, we do it in seconds, not hours. If privately issued crypto assets remain risky and unstable, there may be demand for central banks to provide digital forms of money, an idea we explore in the Global Financial Stability Report. And I want to make a minor divergence here, Christine, just to... What you have to understand is that all of your current fiat currencies are now competing against cryptocurrencies. And what you're seeing in the quote-unquote volatility is two things. It is greater adoption, meaning more people using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but that's a reflection of the fact that the central banks are printing a shit ton of money. And it's got to go somewhere. And it comes to us after it's gone through everything else. Okay, it doesn't immediately come to crypto. No. Okay, it comes to crypto after it's already been rinsed through the Dow, and it's been rinsed through the Nasdaq and the Nikkei and all those other markets out there, and then it comes into crypto. Okay, they make their money there, and then they do their gamble with us. Okay, and that's why the volatility is the volatility. When you're seeing massive spikes in Bitcoin against the US dollar, against the Chinese yen, against the Bolivar, the Venezuelan Bolivar, these are all reflections of not only what's happening on the Bitcoin side of the exchange rate, but also the fiat currency in question. We're talking apples and oranges, literally. We're exchanging apples and oranges. We're saying, how many apples will you give me for this orange? How many oranges will you give me for this apple? And I'm sorry, Christine, but back in like 2011, 2012, Bitcoin broke parity with the US dollar because they kept printing and printing and printing, and now we're at about what, like $8,900 per Bitcoin, because they're still printing and printing and printing, and they're able to distort that effect throughout the market via a variety of ways. But they can't hide it with Bitcoin because we can't print Bitcoin. We can't streamline the creation of new Bitcoin to make up for the fact that we're getting ass raped on the exchange rate for our currencies when we go to buy our supplies. You know, if you buy anything that's like a consumable good, you know, a consumable mass manufactured food item, okay, you've noticed shrinkflation. If you do any kind of retail shopping for yourself, Christine, I don't know, maybe somebody else does that for you. But if you were like buying milk, or you were buying eggs, or you were buying anything that is a consumer good, like maybe like Twinkies, or I don't know, maybe you like donuts or something like that, you will have noticed that over time, maybe like 3 years ago you started buying this item, but over time, the amount of the actual items that you buy in the store, the amount that you get for the amount of money that you pay has been shrinking over time. And Max Kaiser, for all his ranting and raving and whatnot, he comes up with some really good economic terms. And one of the ones that he came up with that I love to no end, and it might have been somebody else's and he just used it or something, I don't know, but it was shrinkflation. And what this is a physical manifestation of the distortions that are happening in the market when the Federal Reserve prints up billions and billions and billions of dollars every month. The rest of the world cannot get more efficient enough to make up for the cost offset. They make a great effort at it. And if the reality is, if we were forced to have the efficiencies on the bank side of things, on the central bank side of things, okay, to where they couldn't just wave the magic wand and make up more money, survival in the United States would be pennies on the dollar in today's dollars. We would not give a shit that the US dollar has lost 98% of its buying power since the closure of the gold window or the creation of the US dollar. We wouldn't give a shit about it because the efficiencies of robots and AI and 3D printing and all the other wonderful fucking things that we've done to try and make our manufacturing processes more efficient would make things so fucking cheap that the average bum on the street could bum enough money from people on the corner to buy a house and get themselves off the motherfucking street. This is the reality that cryptocurrencies are going to bring to this market. And you can not like it, you can like it. It doesn't matter. But the whole need for the IMF, the monetary, no. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. I mean, you make the point of acknowledging the fact that 1,500 cryptocurrencies exist. Let me ask you a question. How many of those do you regulate? How many of those did you administer the create or have anything to do with the authorship of? That's right, none. You know, I mean, even if I were interviewing one of you right now, the answer would still be none. I mean, I've had my doubts about the Bancor, but I'm pretty sure it's still none. Anyway, bullet point number 2, continuing on. The underlying technology of the crypto assets, the distributed ledger technology, or DLT, could help financial markets function more efficiently. Self-executing and self-enforcing, quote, smart contracts could eliminate the need for some intermediaries. Oh God, that's funny. Already, the Australian Securities Exchange has said it plans to use DLT to manage the clearing and settlement of equity transactions. Okay. Jesus Christ. Christine, I've said this a few times on the show, or Ms. Lagarde, or Mrs. I don't know. I'm just going to go with Christine because I know your first name from this. DLT is unless somebody is mining it knowingly, it's a database. I don't care how many computers you dedicate to it or whatever. And you know what? You can lie to your own blockchain all you want, because there's nobody to verify it. Nobody to say, oh, hey, wait a minute, you just created 10 billion new coins to even out your shit. Oh no, wait a minute, you just reorganized, attacked yourself and reorganized all your blocks and made some made some transactions not happen. There's nobody to check for that. There's nobody to check for double spends. There's nobody to check for reorganizations or deletions or edits. And I mean, like, it's like you guys think we're like wowed by this term DLT. I'm not. I understand how a quote-unquote blockchain is created, and it's like the crap. I've said this a few times on this show that the blockchain is the bullshit, and you keep focusing on the bullshit like you can create the bullshit by some other way other than having the bull, and you can't. You need bulls to create the bullshit. No bulls, no bullshit. That's the way this market works. You can't have the bulls, and I mean, you can't have the bullshit without the bulls. You just can't. You know, something creates bullshit. There's one thing we know that creates bullshit. It's fucking bull. That's how it works. So, in order to have a blockchain, you have to have miners. And in order to have miners, you have to have a coin. And if you don't have a coin, then you don't have incentivized miners. And if you don't have incentivized miners, there's nothing to guarantee that they are not cheating. There's nothing to guarantee that they are not lying. There's nothing to motivate them not to lie or cheat. So your illusions about DLTs that are actually going to function and are actually going to be believable and actually going to work like Bitcoin is just that. It's a fantasy. And I'm really sad to see it get this far down the road. I mean, I know somebody plans to either pin it on the fucking Bitcoin blockchain and call that DLT, or they're planning on hosting their own quote-unquote blockchain that only they will have a copy of. That's the plan. It's one or the other. If they do it on the Bitcoin blockchain, the miners will most likely not knowingly be mining it. And you know what? If they're mining it just like regular cryptocurrency transactions, who gives a fuck? But if we find that we really don't like what you're doing with those funds, then the confidence will shift away from Bitcoin and go on to a cryptocurrency that you're not using the fucking blockchain for to do all kinds of fuckery that we don't agree with. That's the function of those 1,500 coins. We don't have 1,500 coins almost a decade into this fucking thing without any reason. There's a reason why. And it's called competition. All of these people are competing for the cheese. Now, you want to get into the crypto game? Compete for the fucking cheese. Continuing on. Third bullet point. Secure storage of important records is another promising use for DLT. Healthcare companies are studying how to use the technology to maintain confidential medical data while providing access to issuers and insurers, and other authorized users. Again, your blockchain, if it is not being mined by knowing public miners, it's worthless. Continuing on. Bullet point 4. In developing economies, such advances can help secure property rights, increase market confidence, and promote investment. In Ghana, where property ownership is often the subject of disputes, a DLT-based platform called Bitland promises to help solve the problem by securely recording land sales. You know what? You can do that on your own, Christine. You don't even need Bitland to do it. You just got to associate the data with your transaction, and for a minimal amount of money, you can have it recorded on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's there for everybody to see. There's no fucking dispute. There's no third party. There's no intermediary enriching themselves on your business. You know, you want to talk about something that we can enhance with regard to cryptocurrencies. It's that kind of literacy. Being able to use the technology available, again, we can solve all of the fucking problems that we currently have today with the technology that we currently have in our hands. It's just a matter of intent and application. Are you really trying to benefit everybody, or are you just trying to benefit yourself? And your motivations get borne out in this market really quick. Because if it was just to help yourself, eventually, and not too far into it, your greed burns you out. Next thing you know, two years from now, they find you're divorced, you're on a corner somewhere whoring your ass so that you can afford your heroin fix, because you've literally bottomed out and burned every bridge that you had on the way down. You know, that's the way this shit works. If you're out to help other people, though, the other people that you're trying to help will try and help you, if in fact you've actually helped them. You know, so again, it's a matter of intent and execution, and how you want to go about it, how strongly you feel about it. Anyway, continuing on. A better balance. In my view, the fintech revolution will not eliminate the need for trusted intermediaries such as brokers and bankers. There is hope, however, that decentralized applications spurred by crypto assets will lead to a diversification of the financial landscape, a better balance between centralized and decentralized service providers, and a financial ecosystem that is more efficient and potentially more robust in resisting threats. You already live in that world, Christine. You just don't know it yet. What are the implications for financial stability? Our preliminary assessment is that given their still small footprint and limited links to the rest of the financial system, crypto assets do not pose an immediate danger. Even so, Regulators should remain vigilant. Crypto assets have the potential to magnify the risks of highly leveraged trading and to increase the transmission of economic shocks should they become more integrated into mainstream financial products. It's already too late for that. Moreover, banks and other financial institutions will face challenges to their business models should there be a large-scale shift away from government-issued currencies toward crypto assets. Regulators might find it harder to ensure the stability of a more diffuse and decentralized financial system. Central banks might have more trouble acting as the lender of last resort in case of a crisis. Actually, I think that's actually going to go the other way, Christine. I think they will be going back to the lender of last resort because we're talking about moving actual monetary value now. You know, this is something that they were able to issue representations of, and they were the sole party that was capable of doing that. But see, we don't issue representations of value. We issue monetary units. And the relative value of them, in contrast to other currencies out there in the market, is a matter of market sentiment. Anyway, continuing on. An even-handed approach. Before crypto assets can transform financial activity in a meaningful and lasting way, they must earn the confidence and support of consumers and authorities. An important initial step will be to reach a consensus within the global regulatory community on the role crypto assets should play. Because crypto assets know no boundaries, international cooperation will be essential. Actually, we've already got this covered, Christine. We've already got it covered. You know, your participation or a regulator's participation in that is not actually needed. And I think that's something that will become clearer as time goes by, that, you know, I think you're right in that bankers and current existing brokers will maintain a necessity. There is going to be a facility for them. There is a lot that they currently do that it will remain terribly useful to us as time goes on. However, I think the type of securities or the type of monetary units they use in the future will differ significantly from the ones that they currently do. And in this aspect, that's where I see their role changing. You know, it won't be a matter of them being able to wave the magic wand anymore. Okay, we'll have private parties such as you or me acting as miners for a Fed coin. They will willingly be mining it. But that Fed coin is going to have a value in Bitcoin, in Ripple, and other coins. It's going to be exchanged just like any other coin. Now, whether or not a Federal Reserve or other central bank will maintain the US dollar, or, I mean, as I call them, Federal Reserve notes, because that's what they really are. It's actually written on them. Whether they'll maintain them as they currently do or try and guarantee some sort of one-to-one peg with them, I don't think that'll be the case. However, I do see the possibility of issuing them on the fly. Now, maybe, just maybe, they could be paper wallets. But they would be based, the backing for them would be based on cryptocurrencies. So they would be IOUs, just like they are now. But they would be IOUs issued against proven and provable reserves. There will not be any fucking illusions about what the actual exchange rate is. There won't be any illusions about what the actual issuance rate is. It might be a capless coin, but it will have a deterministic release date or release mechanism. A block reward, shall we say. But it'll be open to the public to mine. And in this way, we'll be able to express our confidence in it. Now, there won't be any guarantee that they will want to back the current circulating Federal Reserve notes, but they might be willing to fill it in, meaning that they start it up, right? And once there is parity between its value and the U.S. dollar, that maybe you set a certain amount aside to pay off the current amount of U.S. dollars floating around in debt. I mean, we're talking about I want to say it's like $240 trillion or some outrageous amount of fucking money that's in debt. But if we consider the current valuation of the U.S. dollar and assume that it will go hockey stick, just like the Venezuelan Bolivar, at some point or another, that it'll be suffering, hundreds of points of inflation per month, that we might be able to see some sort of offset with a Fed coin. But again, a Fed coin is perfectly possible. Trying to do it as an ICO is fucking stupid. All you're doing then is just creating a fucking another gambling unit. But if you open it up as a publicly mineable coin, and not just in the US, this is very, very important. Not just the US. Allow French people to mine it. Allow Chinese people to mine it. Allow people in Singapore to mine it. Venezuela. This is how we will get out of the current system that we're in, where we're literally paying for bullets to shoot at ourselves. This market is going to go away. Okay, it sounds really neat for population control and whatnot, but honestly, shooting at one another is not the best way to use our brain power. If we were to dedicate the same amount of brain power it takes to aim and fire a gun to getting the fuck off this rock, we can all know riches like we've never known before. But I think that one of the things that cryptocurrencies will finally bring out is an actual market reflection of advances in efficiency in manufacturing. When they can sell you an iPhone for $800, 10 years ago, and they can sell you an iPhone that's got like 8 billion times more capability than that previous phone, but for $800, there's significant advancements in technology happening behind the scenes there. Now, of course, maybe they defer some of the cost off to third-party vendors and whatnot that are going to get a cut for making software for it that they're going to glean data from or some shit. There's some sort of interest in there to take up some of the cost of the individual unit. But nonetheless, I mean, if we were to go just like bare bones, process time and all that other shit, you're not going to be looking at a phone that was over $2,000 to manufacture and get to your hand at a significant profit. And with that being said, you have to think about the value offset and the advancements that were necessary in order to make up for that loss. Okay, so when they print up $10 billion a fucking month for the year, and you're manufacturing something, and that inflation is coming back down to you in the form of higher costs for the manufacturing materials that you need to make your fucking phone during that time. Okay, so in the meantime, you got to be looking for cheaper places to make your shit, cheaper ways to make your shit, ways to make your shit faster, All on top of that. And you're competing with a whole bunch of other people that are trying to do the same thing. Now, the reason that you and I don't actually realize the full savings that we could be is because of this process of inflation that's going on with our fiat currencies issued by central banks. Now, when you eliminate that, and we get onto a more deterministic cycle, that is going to impact the market in ways that, Christine, I'm sorry, not you, not me, not anybody, Alan Greenspan, none of these people can predict. But I'm telling you right now, it will be more significant than anything we have seen yet. And this is going to be one of those unanticipated consequences that we see coming down the pike. And the idea of manufacturing the way that we do now, it's going to go away. It's just going to go away. Anyway, continuing on. Even-handed approach. Before crypto assets can transform the financial activity in any meaningful way, they already have, blah, blah, blah. Here in the IMF membership. Okay, yeah, here we go. And before crypto assets can transform the financial activity in any meaningful and lasting way, they must earn the confidence and support of consumers and authorities. They already have, Christine. This is a point that I wanted to come to as well, that there are investigators, FBI, and so on, that use cryptocurrency blockchains all the time in investigating crimes. And this will continue on. This will continue to get more to that as time goes on, as they learn to rely on them more. So yeah, the trust is already there. Continuing on. Let's see here. Understanding the risks that crypto assets may pose to financial stability is vital if we are to distinguish between real threats and needless fears. That is why we need an even-handed regulatory agenda, one that protects against risks without discouraging innovation. A clear-eyed approach can help us harness the gains and avoid the pitfalls of the new crypto assets landscape. To some extent, I agree with you, Christine, but on other points, I think you're still living in the 50s, as with the majority of us, myself included in that. I won't say I'm entirely free of that mindset. But like I said, I think that cryptocurrencies, given the certainty of their either being there or not there, that's going to change things significantly once they get into high enough circulation. And I believe it won't be too much longer before we see a significant amount of monetary value having been dispersed into cryptocurrencies and diverted away from conventional markets. That we are going to see that quote-unquote lasting effect that you're expecting. I think the blockchain is kind of a testament in and of itself to that, because here we are, 9 years of consistent running, so how much better do we gotta get before you believe in it? Anyway, it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. It's been a pleasure. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. Watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. Not even the IMF. And it is with that I'd like to close it out. And I actually did pick a closing dance, a last dance for the evening. And this is because it is 420. And there isn't too many songs that indicate how Meshuggah feels about pot. But I think this one does kind of serve to do that. And here it is. Acrid Placidity by Meshuggah, here on Coin Metal. Thank you very much for listening, and y'all have an excellent weekend.